Hello and welcome to Super OK, where we try to do a decent enough job to entertain people with our opinions on video games. My name, as always, is Dale, and I am joined here by one of my favorite humans on the planet. And one of the things that I love about him is that I'll say that and he'll never believe it, but it's true. His name is Tubbs. Tubbs, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
You know, I had Sonic for dinner, and I had too many fried foods because all their fried stuff is so good. So we had like mozzarella sticks and their deep fried pretzel and their like pickle chips and their tater tots. And
Did you get the peanut butter cheeseburger?
What?
Did you get the peanut butter bacon cheeseburger?
I did not know that was a thing.
You should. Peanut butter bacon is a real good combo that a lot of people sleep on.
I didn't know they had it. I went there because I wanted a bacon cheeseburger. I got a bacon cheeseburger. I did not know about the existence of the peanut butter bacon cheeseburger.
Maybe they've stopped doing it, but they did have that and a peanut butter bacon
fatalities, probably.
Shake. Maybe.
Oh man, that's nuts. That's absolutely nuts. No, I did not get that. But other than that, I'm doing well. Thank you.
Good.
So this is a video game podcast. And so, of course, we start every episode by talking about our highlight of the week, which is a thing that made our week a little bit better, a little bit brighter, a little bit nicer to live in. And we always let our guests go first. So, Tubbs, what was your highlight of the week?
So because Valentine's Day was on a Wednesday, and Wednesday is the first day that my son is at his mom's house and we have a break, we did not do anything for Valentine's Day on Valentine's Day except for watch Long Shot and eat pizza. So on Saturday we had our actual Valentine's Day date, which was real fun. It was we went to a bar called Black Salt in Hamtramck, which is real weird. It's a bar where they also, some of their cocktails come with a ritual. If you pay an extra couple dollars for it, they will cast a spell over your drink and then you do a little thing and it's supposed to create some sort of an effect. So like for mine, I did a spell to increase connection and love in our marriage by writing my wife Katie's name down 3 times on a piece of paper and that intention on the back. And it was edible paper that I put into the cocktail and then drink it and say a little, I forget what the wording was, but there was some little,
some sort of incantation.
Yeah. And that was like $18 for that cocktail. And
was it good?
Yeah, it was fine.
Now, here's my question. Was it like a theme bar where like when you did this, like lightning came overhead and there was like lighting effects?
No, it's not like that tiki bar at Disney World that they have. It's just like a kind of gothy bar. They have like vending machines with crystals or tarot cards or little spells you can buy. It was fine, but I don't know that we'll ever go back. And then we went to El Barzón for dinner, which is an amazing restaurant that you introduced me to. But I made a big mistake and didn't order the dish I've been ordering every time I went there for like a decade. I decided to go off the beaten path and get something else, and it just wasn't as good. It was fine, but it was not as good. So
every time I go there, I try something new, and it's always really good. But I get it. I mean, you're a gnocchi lover, and so
I am. And I got like it was pasta, like little pasta purses stuffed with cheese and prosciutto in a chorizo cream sauce. I guess I just don't like prosciutto as much as I thought I did. So that kind of ruined it. But fair. I ate the leftovers. My wife got the gnocchi and I ate the leftovers before we recorded. So I still got a little bit.
Nice. Perfect.
Yeah.
That's great. That's actually absolutely wonderful. My highlight of the week is also a Valentine's Day date. Because Ange and I, if you've been listening, you know that we are currently unhoused. Our house was floating. It's no longer floating, but it still has about a month and a half worth of work to be done before we can move back in. Stairs have to be moved, walls and doorways have to be moved. Like shit's crazy in that place. And so we have been staying with her family. They have been lovely, but that means we haven't had a ton of time just to ourselves. And so we were very intentional about wanting to go out on Valentine's Day. And we went down to one of her favorite restaurants in the city called Super Crisp, which is like a Japanese American fusion restaurant. Like you can get a katsu chicken sandwich or like fries with nori on them, like that sort of thing. And so we went there. It was great. And then we went and saw the movie Argyle in theaters. And Argyle was a lot of fun. I would give it like a 6 or 6.5 out of 10. It wasn't like the best movie of all time, but it was definitely a good time. It was definitely fun. If you get a chance to like watch it on streaming later, I would recommend it. Odds are it's going to come to Apple TV Plus since it was an Apple movie. But it was like a fun amount of like goofy, and there's good action, and there I will give it this, I had no clue where that movie was going. So it's definitely worth a watch. I don't know that I would see it in theaters.
It's the fellow that did the Kingsman movies, correct?
Yes, the same fellow, Matthew Vaughn.
I do love those movies. Oh, and he did Matty Vaughn. He did didn't he do Kick-Ass as well, and the Sherlock Holmes movies?
So like, I'm not sure about Sherlock Holmes, but yeah, he did Kick-Ass.
He's got a good track record. I'm surprised it wasn't that, only a 6, but like, I mean, everybody.
Here's the thing. I don't know that I was necessarily the target audience for it.
That's fair.
It was definitely, Ange described it as like an action movie made for women who like romance novels. And so she really enjoyed it, and I only kind of enjoyed it. So if that's your steez, check it out. Like I said, right. I would watch it on streaming. I don't think it's the sort of film that you have to see in theaters.
That's fair. Okay.
So
I'll watch the shit out of it on streaming.
Yeah. So, but it was just a really nice night. It was great to have the opportunity to like just have a very intentional date night with my wife, which I know is a little weird to say, but in our current life, it's the sort of thing that I get to relish, which is nice.
It's also just real important. We try to do it once a week in some fashion. So
yeah,
it's important.
Yeah. It was Valentine's Day. Everybody's out here keeping the love alive. It's good.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Speaking of keeping the love alive, Microsoft recently held a press conference, which is weird because I say keeping the love alive because they have in the past talked about how they have lost this console generation and that there isn't a lot of love for Microsoft. And so they're trying to get some of it back. And they held this press conference on the future of Xbox business, which is a very weird title because when you think about the future of Xbox, you think about like, oh, these are the games that are coming out. Like these are some of the things that you can look forward to. And maybe there's a new feature or whatever, or a new benefit. But when they talk about business, that's a very, very unusual thing. And so during this, they announced that they would be releasing 4 former Xbox exclusives, which were exclusive to Xbox and by extension PC, on quote, the other systems. They did not specify which systems, they just said the other systems. And this marks the first time that Xbox has ever released their former exclusive titles on other hardware. Now, Sony has done this in the past, but they have only released some titles that were exclusive to PlayStation on the PC, things like Spider-Man, God of War, and that's about it. They had Days Gone, I think, was one of them, but they haven't had like a ton of games that they've released on multiple different systems. And Nintendo has never done this unless you count games that they created for other game consoles. Like they made a couple exclusive titles to the Philips CDI or a couple games that are exclusive on mobile. But Nintendo has never done this. And well, Microsoft has been coy about which games they're going to put on other consoles. It's heavily rumored that both Sea of Thieves and Hi-Fi Rush will be coming to other consoles. So we're going to dive into some exclusive content for this here podcast. These questions that are coming up, you can only get them here, folks. So make sure that you stay tuned. Anyway, it's fucking stupid. First off, obvious question. I know that you, Tubbs, you don't currently have an Xbox. You don't currently have a Game Pass Ultimate subscription. So I want to ask, which Xbox exclusives would you be excited about?
Okay, so originally I think I would have said Starfield because that I believe was Xbox exclusive, right? And I thought that game
Yep.
sounded really cool, but everyone I know has said that it is no good. I have not encountered anyone who's really, really liked it. So then I thought maybe like I'd love to be able to play the Left 4 Dead series, but I have Back for Blood for PS5, and that's essentially the same game.
Yeah, and Left 4
And I
Dead is
also,
available on your Steam Deck, so
yeah, I
yeah.
also have barely played Back for Blood, so like maybe I don't want that as much as I thought. And I was having trouble thinking of any other Xbox exclusive game, so I'm gonna say Microsoft Flight Simulator.
Yeah, I think that above anything else, this is a clear indication that Microsoft has lost this console war. That you're
Yeah.
not like stoked about like Halo or like any of the other ones, like
So
Hi-Fi Rush. Yeah.
I don't know any of those, and the last time I played Halo was in your living room in that house in Roseville, which is like easily 20 years ago. And it was
Yep.
fun back then, but I don't know what Halo's like now.
It's a lot like that, but with powers now. They got powers. Everything's got
Okay.
powers these days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would be excited about some first party titles coming to the PlayStation 5 for sure, as long as they offer crossplay. Because realistically, I think any multiplayer game could only benefit from that. Like Sea of Thieves being a natural fit to the PS5, maybe even the Switch, if the Switch can run it. That said, I would be really surprised to see games like Halo Infinite on the Switch or on the PlayStation 5. I feel like Microsoft has some exclusives where it's like Hi-Fi Rush on the Switch, that's natural. That's just probably gonna happen, right? But some of their games are just such tightly held IPs that I don't see any possible way that they're going to come to other systems. And I would be pleasantly surprised if I were wrong there. You know?
I've heard you talk about Hi-Fi Rush. I don't know anything about it really, but I've heard you talk about it.
It's like a fun, super stylized rhythm beat 'em up game. So
Okay.
everything in the world is happening to the beat of the song that's going on in the background. And
Oh,
so,
maybe I have seen that game.
yeah. So if you like punch on beat, it does more damage, like that
Okay.
sort of thing. It's
Right
good.
on.
It's real
So
fun.
it's like capoeira.
Yes, it's exactly
Okay.
like capoeira. Perfect.
Cool.
Perfect analogy.
Cool.
All right. So the next question is, have you ever bought a console for an exclusive, or have exclusives played a part in which console you purchased? And I want to answer this one first because I famously bought a Dreamcast exclusively for Soul Calibur. It was
Yeah.
the only game I owned on the Dreamcast for weeks and weeks and weeks. But I do think that exclusives have played at least a part in every console purchase that I've ever made. The Xbox I bought in part because it came with Jet Set Radio Future. Obviously, any Nintendo console, you've got a million different Nintendo exclusives. And I usually wait to buy the Nintendo console until there's an exclusive that I want. Like I didn't buy a Switch for the first year or so because I just didn't care. But then Odyssey came out and I was like, I got to get on that. So that's my thoughts. What about yours?
So I've actually done this. I would say a bunch of times, but really only two, I think, that I can think of. I know way, way back, I replaced my PS1 with an Xbox because I wanted to play Fable.
Mm.
I tell you this, if Fable was available to me, I would be playing it right now. I loved that game so, so much. And then when Guitar Hero came out, if I remember correctly, it was exclusive to PlayStation for a long time. And
Mm-hmm.
so I traded in my Xbox and all of my Xbox games to get a PS2 so that I could play Guitar Hero.
I see.
Um, and then up until then, I've been pretty loyal to PlayStation. I had the 3, the 4, and now I have a 5. But just recently, like within the last month, I got my beautiful Steam Deck, and I got a Switch Lite about a year ago. When my son got one, I was like, I'll be damned if my 8-year-old is going to have have one of these, and I'm not. So I got one as well. But I didn't really. I got that just to be able to play with him, really. Um, and the Steam Deck I got to basically fill the holes of anything that I couldn't play on PS5 because it was
Mm,
either PC exclusive or something like that. But now it's just a City of Heroes machine. And if it does other things, I guess that's cool, but it's for City of Heroes now.
nice. I know that you are brand new to the Steam Deck, so I need you to promise me that you'll at least finish the rest of this episode before I tell you this data. Can you make that
Okay.
promise?
Yeah.
Uh, Fable Anniversary is available on the Steam Deck. It is Steam Deck
Okay.
verified, and it is in fact on sale right now for 70% off. You can get it for $10.50.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, I'm going to buy it while we're talking. I won't play it until after.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
Here I go.
All right, that's a real Brody move. All right, I have heard it
Oh,
said that Nintendo is a company that might not exist without its exclusives. Do you think that there is any truth to that statement?
I do. I could definitely see that being true for sure. Um, but what's interesting is I don't really think of Nintendo as a console company, despite the NES being such a leap forward from like Atari and ColecoVision and Intellivision in terms of consoles. Like they were the first like revolutionary console after the OGs.
Mm-hmm.
But when I think of the Nintendo, I don't think about that. I think about the iconic games they made, like Mario, Donkey Kong, Zelda. Um, and this is similar to the Steam Deck, where like Valve made the Steam Deck, but I don't think of Valve as a console company. They're a game designer
Mm,
um, that designed a console. So yeah, I guess it makes me wonder if the Mario family of products, Donkey Kong, Zelda. I'm trying to think of what else. Metroid, I guess.
mhm.
Is Mega Man Nintendo exclusive?
Nope.
No. So I guess those are the only ones I can think of. Um, would be enough to sustain a company if they didn't also make consoles. Would those games be good enough if they came out for all consoles? But it also does make me ask a question. I don't know if you want to answer and then like come back to my question.
No, you're fine. What's your question?
Um, but my wife and I were talking about this last night when I told her that I was going to be doing this podcast about this topic, where she was asking me about like console exclusivity, and she asked about Mario specifically. And it always seems to me like when a company says like this game is going to be Xbox exclusive, people get really mad about it. But nobody has ever seemed to get mad at Nintendo for all of their like hugely iconic games being Nintendo exclusive. Like nobody is pissed that Mario Wonder isn't available for PS5 that I'm aware of. People just have a Nintendo console for the Nintendo games if that's what they want. And I'm wondering why Nintendo is able to kind of skate by without any blowback for having so many exclusive games.
That's a really good question. And I think it speaks to the dichotomy between when a first party game and a third party game are console exclusives. Because realistically, when I look at like, the Mario games, I fully understand that those are going to be console exclusives, right? Like I know for a fact that Nintendo is going to be the only company that has a Mario game. I know the same thing to be true when I look at a Halo game for Xbox, when I look at a God of War game for PlayStation, right? And I don't think that there's really that large of a blowback when these companies announce that they have a first party game that's coming exclusively to their own console, right? But I do think that there is a huge blowback when you have a game that could be released on any console, especially if it's something that's hotly anticipated, that turns out, oh, it's only going to be available on this one console instead, right? And I think that the reason for that is, in one case, it's a company saying, here's a reason why you should buy our console. We made this game and you can only play it on our console. And so it's a good reason for you to want our thing. And in
Mhm.
the other case, it's a company saying, this other company made this thing and we paid them a lot of money so people on other consoles can't play it. And there's just a difference in the vibe between those two things, right? Where it's like one company put a lot of effort into it and the other company just put a lot of dollars behind it. And it seems unfair to the players where it's like, well, fuck, Sony just spent a bunch of money so that I can't play this, as opposed
Yeah.
to Sony made a bunch of money so that I can play this on a PlayStation.
Okay. I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Now,
Fable
all
and
of
all
that.
DLC has been purchased.
Oh, perfect. Now,
Yeah.
all of that being said, I'm actually really excited that the Switch did well because honestly, I feel like if Nintendo had two Wii U's in a row, I could see them abandoning hardware completely, going the way of Sega, producing all their Marios, their Zeldas, their Donkey Kongs, their Mario Karts, their Mario Parties, their all of the various first party games they create and making those for all of the consoles. And the problem is when they do that, they no longer have the incentive to make the best possible version for their console because it's not going to sell them any additional consoles. It's not going to make them any extra money on hardware or accessories or whatever, right? And we saw that with Sega. Like, if you think about the quality of games that Sega released for the Dreamcast, and then the dip in quality that they took when they stopped making games for the Dreamcast and started making, like, I don't know, 80 different Sonic games for the Wii, and all of them fucking sucked. Like, I'm so glad that Nintendo is still making hardware, even if they're back assward as hell.
I was gonna say I couldn't, apart from Sonic, I can't think of games that Sega has made since Dreamcast. And the biggest thing they've done lately was that announcement that like a bunch of their old games are gonna be coming back.
I mean, there's a bunch of different Sega games that they have brought out recently. I'm pretty sure all the Yakuza games are Sega. I know that they like completed Shenmue a while back.
Crazy Taxi's coming back, baby.
Yeah, Crazy Taxi's coming back. They're making a new Jet Grind radio that I could not be more excited about. But like,
Yeah.
you're right. There are like Sega games have definitely lost their luster
Yeah.
in the most recent years. You know, like they put out Endless Dungeon and that got a little bit of hype. But outside, and some of the Persona games, I think some of those are Sega as well. But if I'm wrong, correct me in the Discord. I might be wrong.
Do it.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Sega, man, they have definitely lost a lot of their luster. Just a ton of
Yeah.
them. So that conversation though that you had about Nintendo brings up a really obvious question that we have kind of beaten around the bush about so far. What are your opinions on console exclusives in general?
So as someone who, like, without being gauche, up until pretty recently, I had to be really careful about my gaming budget.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was not a person who could more or less afford to buy whatever new game came out whenever I wanted to.
Yeah, I think that's
Um,
true for most people.
it's true for a lot. I mean, it seems like most of my gaming friends, they don't miss anything that they want to play. Um,
Well, most of your gaming friends are also like middle-aged humans with a bunch of disposable income, as
right,
opposed to like kids or
right,
young.
right. And so I found myself a lot of times being like, oh, I would love to be playing this game, but it's PC or Xbox exclusive, and I don't have the money to have, like, I never had the money to have a PS5 and an Xbox. I technically probably could now if I wanted to, but I don't really see the point to it, especially with the Steam Deck now. I don't really see a point to it. Um, but I used to really, really hate it. And just because I, as you know, suffer from a terminal case of FOMO. And
Yeah.
if my friends are all doing something and literally can't do it, oh boy, do I hate that. Um, that said, I also really don't understand it from like a business standpoint. So, like, in my mind, if I'm Microsoft and I own Bethesda, why is it a better business decision for me to hope that if Bethesda decides to make a Fallout 5, is that we're up to 5, right? If they decide to
Yeah.
make a Fallout 5 and Microsoft is like it's going to be an Xbox exclusive, are they really thinking more people would want to shell out $600 or $700 for an Xbox so that they can play that game? I would think that as a business, I would capture more market share, making my game accessible to anyone who wants to play it on any console that can handle it. So I guess I don't really even understand the thinking behind having a game be console exclusive unless the console company is making it themselves, like a
Yeah. I mean,
Nintendo.
yeah, I think, and it's interesting because you're talking about Microsoft owning Bethesda, and obviously, like, they're gonna get a return on that. They probably thought it was going to be with Starfield, and it turns out it probably wasn't with Starfield. But we are also, and this is weird, but because we talked about this a little bit in our cloud gaming episode like 2 years ago, we are potentially moving towards the point where this next generation of gaming machines might be the last generation of gaming machines before
Hmm.
everything just moves to the cloud, right? Like, cloud gaming is getting better every single day. I was playing a bunch of Pal World and Turnip Boy Robs a Bank on my Steam Deck over Xbox Live Ultimate earlier today, and it
Mhm.
was great. I couldn't tell that it wasn't natively installed, right? And so we might get to the point where this next console is the last consoles, except for
Yeah.
Nintendo, who's probably never going to change because they can't figure out
Yeah.
how the fucking internet works. But anyway, so you raise an interesting point there. That said, if I'm a diehard Fallout fan, I'm probably buying an Xbox next time, right?
See, and I
Like,
but I consider
because I
myself a
know
diehard.
that it's going to be there.
Right, but I consider myself a diehard Fallout fan. I've played every single one since they were available to me at Fallout 3, and I've loved every single one except for 76. I never really got that into.
Yeah, and I hear that's good now, by the way. Shout out to Brain of Dane, who's playing it like
Yeah,
every day.
I would love to give it a try. I got it for free, but I would love to give it a try. That said, as a big Fallout fan, I'm not buying an Xbox to play it. If they made it exclusive only to the Xbox, I guess I just don't get to play it.
But what if the next console, like, you're thinking about, like, hey, which system do I want to get? Ooh, like Fallout's on this one, but
Yeah,
Spider-Man's on this
okay.
one, like, that's the thing. You're not capturing these gamers mid-cycle. You're capturing these gamers on the outset, and that's
Mhm.
why you see like huge games come out when a new console hits the shelves.
Yeah,
Nintendo with Breath of the Wild, for instance, like, sure, you can play Breath of the Wild on the Wii U. Nobody had a fucking Wii U, so it was a great excuse to buy a Switch. You
right.
know, like, that's when you're trying to capture people. It's not mid cycle; it's at the beginning, and by people who know, like, oh man, not only am I a diehard Halo person, but I'm also a diehard Fallout person. I'm a diehard Elder Scrolls person. I'm a diehard Diablo person. I'm a diehard Call of Duty person. Those people now are going to have to look at Xbox in the next console generation because they own all of that shit.
See, and I firmly believe Call of Duty is the game preventing them. I think if Call of Duty went to one console, there would be riots. Those games are so popular. Like, that would be the thing that started the financial revolution in the streets.
I mean, maybe, but also think about it from this standpoint, man. Like, maybe they don't make Call of Duty a console exclusive, but instead they make it $70 on every console unless you are a Game Pass subscriber. And if you have Game Pass, you get it free on day one.
Whew. Yeah, okay.
Right? A year of Game Pass is like $150, but the Ultimate Edition of Call of Duty is probably going to be around that. Like, why wouldn't you just subscribe to Game Pass and get it?
Yeah, okay. That's,
you know, there's like a ton of different reasons why they might want to do this, and all of them are like playing 5D chess with multidimensional time travel. Like, shit is crazy when you start getting into like the economics of like, does it make sense for them to do this? Does it not? But I guarantee there's some bean counter back there who's tweaking all these knobs and like, if we put Sea of Thieves out on other consoles, now that it's been out for 7 years or whatever, we're going to get another couple $1 million, but we're also going to get some people who start to love Sea of Thieves, and so they pay for some of the microtransactions in it, and we'll make a couple million off of that, and it'll grow the community, and it'll reinvest in like all of this stuff, right? Like, Sea of Thieves going to other consoles isn't just going to help Sea of Thieves on the PS5 or on the Switch. It's also going to make people who left it on the Xbox want to come back to it. And that's another really interesting thing to think about.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And that's marketing that you just cannot pay for, you know, like IGN covering that shit. Like, you couldn't pay IGN to put out a like Sea of Thieves is cool again article unless you actually make it cool. And so they're doing that, which is kind of wild that they're doing that.
That's another one I haven't played yet, but I've heard a lot of people talk about it.
I could not give two shits about it, but like, Gannon loves it. Brody loves it, and Gannon and Brody play it in completely different ways. Like, it's two different games, watching one of them play it versus the other. It's really interesting that you can do that. And that if Brody and Gannon are playing on the same map, Brody is just running from Gannon the whole time. Like, it's great.
That's how I see life. That's how I see their friendship.
Yeah, pretty much. My answer to this question, to get all the way back around to the original thing about like, what do we think about console exclusives? I think console exclusives are bad for consumers in general, right? Like, if I buy a system, I want to be able to play whatever I want to play on it. But I think they are good for driving competition. And I do not want to get to a place where there is just one game box that everything is put out on, because that stifles innovation, it stifles competition, and competition is absolutely essential for a healthy market, right? Sure. So I think that exclusives, game like first party exclusives, are a necessary evil. I think that without first party exclusives, a lot of what I love about video games goes away. Third-party exclusives, on the other hand, can eat two butts, because that's just some company like waving their money bag around and saying, hey, you make a game that is only for us, instead of saying like, hey, we have put the resources into creating the best possible experience for our players. Like, if Astro Boy were out on the Switch, it would not work, because it requires the specific controller on the PlayStation 5 to like get all of them like movements and that sort of thing. Whereas if like I'm gonna use the Wii as an example, but if like Mario Galaxy were out on the Xbox, you again would not get the same experience, because you have to use the specific Wii controller to like point at the screen and do stuff, right? I love games that are specifically tailored to the console that they will be played on. I think that those are great. I hate games where it's like, hey, I just paid you a bunch of money so that way you don't release your game elsewhere. That always sucks.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Like, I'm thinking even like a Nintendo to Nintendo thing doesn't work, and that GoldenEye does not play well on the Switch. because you
Yeah.
don't have the 64 controller.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. That is a great point. So here's a weird question about this. Do you think that this move by Xbox is going to put pressure on Sony or Nintendo to do the same? I'm going to go first because my answer is much more succinct than yours. I
Mhm.
don't think it's going to make any difference for Sony or Nintendo. I think it might sway people over to the Xbox in the next console generation, since Microsoft has said that games won't go cross platform for a year and all first party titles will be day one on Game Pass. I could see some kid who falls in love with Sea of Thieves on his Switch, and then when the next console generation comes around, is like, well, I got to get the Xbox so I can keep playing with my Sea of Thieves friends. I could see that being a deciding factor for the next generation. And so I think that this is a smart move for like trying to get Xbox fans ramped up now for hardware that won't be coming out for a year or 2 years from now. I think that that's really smart. I do not think that Microsoft is, or I'm sorry, that Nintendo is going to follow Microsoft on this. I do not think that Sony is going to follow Microsoft on this. I do not think that there is an incentive to do so, with the exception of I could see Sony continuing to release first party titles on PC because they don't really see that as a competitor. It's more like a side market, you know? So I could see
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I definitely don't think Nintendo will do anything because their whole deal is as that one of my favorite memes out there right now is that one that says whenever Nintendo needs to make money, and it's the Joker jumping down off that pile of money in Dark Knight and just going, "Where's the Italian?" Like they they will never stop making games about that little plumber and his buddies. And there are people that will play every one of them. My son is one of them. If you
Mm-hmm.
put that red M hat on something, he will make me buy it.
Yeah.
And so Nintendo they have no reason to, they're not going to, because they can make consoles
Yeah.
of their
We
own.
also, by the way, when talking about the Nintendo console exclusives, we did forget about the most profitable IP in all of human history, Pokemon.
Oh yeah. Wow.
Like, oops.
Yeah, I
I
can't believe we
guarantee
forgot about
someone
that.
was screaming at their podcast device.
Probably your
So
brother, maybe Zando.
probably a lot of people.
Yeah, a lot of people. But like I have a Switch Lite. I like playing Mario Wonder. I like playing the exclusive games, but I don't even play them on my TV. I don't care. It's like I've now got my gaming set up so that I have a living room console, I have an office console with my Steam Deck, and I have a bedroom console, which is my Switch Lite that just sits next to my bed. And that's like I woke up in the middle of the night and I can't go back to sleep. I guess I'll play Mario. So yeah, I don't see Nintendo doing that. Sony, like apart from God of War and Spider-Man, I can't think of like what else is exclusive to PlayStation that's been really that huge.
I mean,
Um,
Last of Us was probably
oh,
the
is that?
next
I didn't know
biggest
that
one.
one. I didn't
Yeah.
know that was exclusive.
Yep.
Um,
Uncharted,
I
because they own Naughty Dog, right? And so you
okay.
figure Uncharted is pretty big. Like they've got a bunch of different titles. Like the infamous titles used to be huge.
Oh
So there's a
wow.
bunch of titles that they own that either are currently or used to be enormous. But like, I'm not gonna lie, I know a lot of people who bought the PS5 for Miles Morales. You know,
Yeah, I mean that's I did not buy I had already had one when that came out, but I definitely like I'm never gonna not want to play a God of War game. Those have been very important to me since the first one. And so that's I think that's why I stick like as far as a console that's bigger than a bread box, that's why I
mm-hmm.
stick with PlayStation because I'm always gonna want to play God of War.
That's fair. Man, the PlayStation 5 is fucking huge.
It is really big. And like when I take my Steam Deck downstairs to the living room and want to plug the deck in, and I have to take out the hardwire for my modem and the HDMI and put it into the Steam Dock, it is a pain to just like move that thing around.
Yeah.
It's too big. Sony. It's too big. All that said, capitalism being what it is, I think the only way these companies get pressure to do the same moves is if they see Microsoft just like backing Brinks trucks up to their doors every day and just dropping piles of money on the floor and being like,
Yeah.
look how much money we're making. We're all taking treasure baths. So that could move them because that's how business works.
Yeah. I do love that you didn't say money bath, but instead treasure bath.
Yeah, because it's Mel Brooks, that History of the World movie. Julius Caesar takes a treasure bath.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. Jumping through a vault like Scrooge McDuck.
You'll die. Don't do it.
Your bones will explode. All right. So, in addition to console exclusive games, some companies have found a way to up the ante by making some content, characters, or missions console exclusive. Famously, there were a few missions and guns that were exclusive to the PlayStation version of Destiny or Destiny 2, I can't remember right now. And even more famously, Spider-Man was only available in the PlayStation version of the Crystal Dynamics shit show called The Avengers. What are your thoughts on this?
It makes no sense to me. As a PlayStation owner who played the Avengers game longer than anyone I know, I was excited to play as Spider-Man, but I would have never like bought a console for that purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't play Destiny anymore because bleh, but when I did, like, still I don't recall the exclusive guns, but if it wasn't the Icebreaker or the Gallarhorn, I really don't care. Those are the only two guns that, like, I haven't played that game in 4 years probably, and those are the only two guns I can think of that I care about.
That's fair.
And the Anarchy, because I never got it. But everybody, you guys all got it when we did that raid. I was the only one who never got one. What I would do, though, and I don't know if this fits into what we're talking about or not, but I would totally pay a little extra money when I bought a game to be able to move myself from console to console. So, like, being able to play, because I have Baldur's Gate for PS5, because I didn't have a Steam Deck when I got Baldur's Gate. I'm still in Act 1 of it because I really wanted to play with my friends, and nobody else was playing it on PS5. And so if I could move my game to my Steam Deck so that I could play with you or play with other people that have it for PC, I would pay an extra $25 for that to be able to switch from console to console. And I know I could just buy the game again.
Concept.
I know I could just buy the game. Right. I'm just saying, like, I know I could buy it again for $50, but it feels wasteful to do. And I'm saying that as somebody who has 3 copies of Vampire Survivor, 2 copies of the Portal games, 2 copies of BioShock. I have those on 2 different consoles. But it was like, I bought the BioShock games for $10 for all 3 to play them on a plane.
Yeah.
While I flew to Disney World. So,
I mean, that makes sense. My question for you, though, is because you mentioned $25 to have it on a different console.
Yeah.
What if you were just able to crossplay? Would you be willing to pay money to crossplay Baldur's Gate 3? And if so, how much?
No, I think crossplay should just be a thing that should, if it's possible, it should exist. Like, if there's, I don't know what reason the Baldur's Gate developers would have to not have crossplay available, but if it's a technical problem, okay, I'll accept that. If it's just like, no, we don't wanna, like,
my understanding is, and this came out during the Apple versus Epic Fortnite stuff, is that Sony charges companies to put crossplay into their games. So if you want to crossplay onto or off of a Sony console, you have to pay Sony money. And so it's a financial decision by the individual game companies, where it's like, are we going to make enough money back to where it makes sense to enable crossplay and have to pay Sony this percentage?
Yeah. Okay. I think that would be on a case by case basis.
Yeah.
For Baldur's Gate, maybe like if everyone, if you guys were all still playing it, I know you are still, but like if you guys were actively playing all the time and I could get in there, I could see paying for that privilege.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, personally, I think that this is just total bullshit. I think that no one is buying a console exclusively for a few missions, or a single character or some DLC or some bullshit like that. And so instead of this feeling like, oh, it's a fun treat for the person who owns that console, this instead feels punitive,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to rewarding. And I think that this falls the same way as like first party console exclusives versus third party console exclusives, where instead of it being like hey, they worked really hard on this, I get it, to a hey, they spent a lot of money, fuck them. Right? Like
Yeah.
that's kind of the thought. And I honestly, this one is weird because I don't even blame this one on the consoles where the shit is exclusive. I do not blame PlayStation. I do not blame Microsoft. I do not blame Nintendo. I instead blame the game developers who lock themselves into these sorts of deals, or the game publishers, whoever's making these deals. Because I think it just proves that they're above nothing when it comes to squeezing every possible single penny out of their customers' experiences. It's such bullshit that you would do this. It is so it just feels slimy
Yeah.
to me, right? It feels all like almost unethical. I understand that it might be legal, but you shouldn't do everything that's legal, and this feels like one of the things you should probably just pass up on. It's
Yeah.
bullshit. You know, I
I
don't.
agree with you. Uh-oh. Sorry, you froze for a second. I agree with you, and I'm not the staunch anti-capitalist that you are. I've got nothing against companies making money, but like, yeah, I don't. It just seems pointless to me. I don't even think it's slimy. I mean, it is, but it just seems pointless.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, like, if you're Sony and you want to make it to where the Spider-Man DLC is free on PlayStation, but they have to pay for it on other consoles, or like some sort of shit like that, where it's like, all right, I got to get the bag a little bit here, but to just outright ban it on other consoles seems fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, I see no
So,
point to it.
yeah, it's absolute utter garbage.
Yeah.
All right. This next question. Oh, we've got a sponsor for this one. How unlike us. Um, this one is sponsored by Ennui. And it says here, of course, the emotion for feeling nothing would end with a wee. Try Ennui. Anyway,
I wish I
you get to
could.
make what?
I wish I could.
Yeah. You get to make any one thing on earth exclusive to a single company, and your goal is to cause the most chaos as humanly possible, or I guess cosmically possible, since we don't know what has given you these powers.
Mhm.
What thing do you pick to make exclusive to which company, and what do you think are the effects?
So I racked my brain on this and could not come up with a chaos answer. So instead, I decided to do one of my favorite things and look out for me. And so I have decided, and really, this is a gift to the world as well. So you're welcome. I've decided to
You're
make
welcome, world. We know you're listening.
I've decided to make the menu at Bojangles exclusive to McDonald's restaurants. So essentially, if you go to McDonald's, you can get anything that you could get at Bojangles
And
because
also McDonald's.
McDonald's has a global presence,
You're right.
and Bojangles is like this little pocket of the South. And I just really would like to be able to get the Bojangles country fried steak biscuit sandwich without having to travel. And I say that because my wife and I are planning our honeymoon right now, and we chose Asheville as a destination. And this wasn't the number one reason, but like we'd definitely be going to be able to go to Bojangles while we're in Asheville because they have a bunch of them. And when we were like trying to plan just a weekend getaway, I was like, you know what we should do? Let's find out where the closest Bojangles to us is and go to wherever that is. And We almost did. We would have wound up in Knoxville, Tennessee, which would have been really fun, but we just decided not to go anywhere. But that was the whole reason. So, like, I would just love to be able to get Bojangles here, and since it seems harder for some reason to get a Bojangles to just open in the Metro Detroit area, I'm going to use this cosmic power to be able to get Bojangles food at McDonald's.
So you're going to essentially shut down the entirety of a semi-regional small fast food chain and give all of their proceeds towards a global fast food chain just so that you can have a slightly nicer breakfast.
Uh-huh.
All right, cool. I'm glad we're on the same page here.
You said that like I'm some sort of villain. I felt nothing. Ennui. I felt ennui.
Perfect. I love it. Oh, man. It's funny because while I did not use my cosmic power for only my benefit, I did, in fact, understand the assignment. I did also go with a food thing. I would like to, starting at midnight tonight, make hamburgers and all of their, like, derivatives, cheeseburgers, sliders, whatever, exclusive to Del Taco. And I want you to imagine the drive-through at any burger place after this, where they're like, yeah, man, we can't sell burgers. And they're like, what the fuck? This is called Burger King.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, do you want some chicken nuggets? Like chicken fries? The classic chicken sandwich, which, by the way, Burger King on their app is trying to abbreviate that to the CCS, and fuck you, Burger King. That's never going to catch on. But anyway, I think it would be beautiful. Also, no one really thinks about the Del Taco burger. Like, if you're at a Del Taco, you're not getting the burger. And so it might take a few weeks for people to figure out that they can still buy burgers, where somebody's like desperate and they're like at a Del Taco and they're, oh shit, they sell a burger. Can I get that? And the guy's like, yeah, I guess, and blows the dust off of the button on the register where the burger gets like put into the kitchen or however it fucking works. So it might take weeks. There might be news stories about like no one could buy a burger, and then like all of a sudden like Del Tacos get like lines around the block. What's amazing about this is like while the Del Taco burger is not amazing, it's definitely not like terrible, right? It's not a bad burger. It's just not the best burger you've ever had. And so it's not like people would give burgers up completely, but they would have to go to this taco place to get their burger. It would be insane. It'd be horrible.
Is this just fast food burgers, or like we couldn't go to Cutter's anymore?
You can't go to fucking any restaurant and get a burger.
I hate it.
I know. It'd be so horrible. So I love it.
I hate it so much.
I think it would cause the most possible chaos.
How many food writers have written a top 10 burgers in said city list? And you're putting those people out of work.
Nope. I'm just saying all 10 got to be Del Taco from now on.
They'd have to do like the Del Taco at 13 and Gratiot, and then below it, the Del Taco in Chesterfield.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, man. Crazy.
Yeah. No more burgers.
I hate it, but I do want to try a Del Taco burger now.
Have you never had it?
No, man. I don't really care for Del Taco that much.
It is best enjoyed in a hot tub. I can tell you that.
Most things are.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty great. I think that this is easily the worst thing that I could think of that wasn't like, Air is exclusive to the Nike Corporation or some like crazy bullshit like that.
Also, I just want to say, like you said that mine was just for my own benefit. I gave Bojangles to the Globe. They have McDonald's in Jakarta. Like,
yeah, all right.
Motherfuckers in Jakarta can get Bojangles now.
I guess welcome. So, but did you cause chaos?
No, and that's because I didn't want to. I wanted a steak biscuit.
I know you do, bud. I know you do.
God, I can't wait to go to Asheville.
Oh,
I'm going to get steak biscuits and buy donuts from Mark Green's daughter. From ER. The actress that played Mark Green's daughter on ER owns a donut shop in Asheville, and it's apparently like one of the best donut shops in the world. So
Oh,
I'm real
all right.
excited. That is
She's a real
actually
double
the
threat.
reason. That's actually the reason we're going.
Okay. All right. If you go and she's not there, you're gonna be like super disappointed.
I mean, her and her husband own the place, and she doesn't act anymore, so I can't see why she wouldn't be there at least one of the 7 days we're going to be there, and
You're
probably
gonna
go
go
there.
7 days in a row to the donut place.
I've done crazier things.
Fair point. Absolutely fair point. Do you have anything else to talk about from a console exclusivity standpoint?
No, nothing comes to mind.
No.
I just want to go play Fable now.
Yeah, I get that. Now that
I
you've
can't
learned that it
wait.
isn't exclusive to the Xbox.
You have no idea. Like, I hope you appreciate the amount of resolve it took to it not at least not get it installing on my Steam. Like, I can reach my Steam Deck from where I'm sitting.
You know what? I greatly appreciate it. That's very kind of you. Well, tell the people where you can be found, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So I can be found most places as JRR Tubbs. So that would be Blue Sky, that would be Threads, Instagram, the Discord that we're in, the Super OK Discord. And the only place where I'm different, and I might be the first person to do this on this podcast, but I am at Ryan McGillen on TikTok. Ooh, big scary TikTok. So you can check me out there for real boring stuff that's not really that great.
Why did you change your name on TikTok? Why aren't you JRR Tubbs there? Was it taken?
Honest to God, I thought you had to put your real name in for some reason.
That's the most boomer shit I've ever heard.
It probably is, and I guess I could go change it, but like, I don't know. I'm busy.
I'm busy making mediocre content.
I got Fables to play.
Yeah, I mean, fair point. Fair point.
So yeah, you can find under that name for pretty much everything. Oh, Twitch. I do a Twitch stream on Monday nights. Right now we're playing Doki Doki Literature Club, and it's weird, and I hope it gets more interesting because my first stream was real boring, in my opinion.
This is your first playthrough of Doki Doki Literature Club, right?
Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
Don't tell
me. By the time you hear this, because this won't release until Tuesday, go and check out that VOD.
Okay. So I'm about to get into the weirdness.
I'm just saying, if you're listening to this, check out that VOD. I guarantee it's going to be a good time.
I can't wait.
That's not for you. Earmuffs for you. As far as me, you can find me on the Discord and on Blue Sky as a 20-sided ninja. I'm also on like Steam and Xbox Live and PSN and all of those sorts of things. So if you're like, hey, I want to play games with somebody, like, hit me up. I'll play games with you. Fuck, I'm on City of Heroes. You alluded to that earlier. Come play City of Heroes with us. We're playing it in the Discord all the time. It's great. It's great. It's a fun time. It's a dead MMO. You can play it for free. It's good.
It's wonderful.
Fun. It is.
I'm thinking about making a new character with like a martial arts fighter, and it's going to be like his name is going to be spelled FAH for the first name, and then the middle initial of Q, and then DANN for the last name. So he'll be Fuck You Dan.
I didn't know where you were going with that. That was really good. I love it so much. All right, I don't think we can top that. I think it's time to end this episode.
Greatest guest ever.
It's so good, so good. If you can top that, let us know in the Discord. Also, if you're a Patreon member, we couldn't do this without you. Thank you immensely. And as always, huge thanks to Zando for editing the episode. We love you all forever. Say goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening. If you're still listening, we hope you have a super okay day.
Bow, bow, bow.